Published on July 29, 1954, The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, written by J.R.R. Tolkien, follows the adventures of our protagonist, a young hobbit named Frodo. The story follows three main themes: 1. Corruption of power, 2. Good versus evil, and 3. Companionship. Set during the end of the Third Age of Middle-earth, Frodo will be met with conflicts, life lessons, in an adventurous science and fantasy fiction tale. The protagonist is an extremely knowledgeable hobbit. He's brave, selfless, and intelligent. Still, as a hobbit, he's not very big. But as seen in his adventures, even the smallest person can change the course of the future. Let's backtrack and start with our author, John Ronald Reuel Tolkien. Due to his fascination with language, he created his first language when he was a little over 13. The Elvish language, Quenya, is one of the most complex languages he's made. For him, it was incredibly important for the characters to have a full culture, which includes language. Another crucial aspect of culture is history. Published in 1954, the story had been published after the events of World War II. If you have ever read the book, then you would have realized that there are two books within it, Book 1 and Book 2. Originally, Tolkien wanted this trilogy to be a single novel. However, due to the shortages of everything pre-war, including paper, the printing company wanted to minimize the costs in case The Lord of the Rings was a failure. So they decided to split each book to contain a pair of volumes. The story opens with Bilbo Baggins' birthday party. After Bilbo's disappearance for his vacation, Frodo is left with most of his belongings, as well as his ring. Gandalf the Grey, an old wizard with great wisdom, tells Frodo that the ring was the one ring of the evil force of Sauron, and instructs him to go to Rivendell, an elvish sanctuary. Frodo then sets out on a quest, accompanied by three other hobbits: Samwise Gamgee, Peregrine Took, and Meriadoc Brandybuck. Sam, one of Frodo's closest friends, is not the sharpest, but his loyalty to Frodo and his braveness make up for this. There are many points in the story where Sam would be by Frodo's side to protect him. Along their trek, they meet a friend of Gandalf, Aragorn, and he hopes to escort Frodo's group to Rivendell. There, the Fellowship of the Ring is formed. Frodo, now accompanied by Sam, Merry, Pippin, Gandalf, Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli, and Boromir, will venture towards the Crack of Doom, a volcano in Mordor where the ring was forged, and the only place where it can be destroyed. The Fellowship may be on the good side in the theme topic, good versus evil, but more specifically, Tolkien is representing the difference between those that have resisted the effects of the ring and desire for power, and those that haven't. The Fellowship continue their trek, but it slowly deteriorates, and Boromir attempts to steal the ring for himself. When this happens, Frodo explains how terror and grief shook him, seeing in his thought the mad, fierce face of Boromir and his burning eyes. This accurately depicts the main conflict that resonates throughout the story: character versus greed. Frodo must fight greed of power from the ring, and we have seen how power had already corrupted both Bilbo and Boromir, showing how it can alter even the most noble of characters. We could see the desire in Boromir's burning eyes, which is a well-written line that illustrates this resonating conflict. Tolkien is aware of the risks of human desire. Power is a desired element, wanted by everyone, and in this story, and much like life, the gain of power is the force that produces conflicts, wars, and deaths. Ultimately, due to Boromir's actions, Frodo decides to leave the group for their protection and sets out by himself to Mordor. Just before Frodo can leave, however, Sam catches up and says, "I'm coming too, or neither of us isn't going. I'll knock holes in all the boats first." Gandalf knew the importance of companionship and told Frodo if he knew of anyone he could trust, and who would be willing to go by his side. However, he also stated that if you look for a companion, be careful in choosing. Here, it is evident that Sam was a worthy companion and will always stick by Frodo's side. Companionship with the right people allows people to accumulate enough strength that could resist any obstacle. The book closes with the two in a boat slowly just drifting off the scene and down into the land of shadow. We see the story in a third-person omniscient perspective. The narrator mainly focuses on Frodo, but we have seen the views from other characters, such as when the Fellowship was broken and the readers saw the views from both Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli, as well as Frodo and Sam. I would give it a rating of 4.5 stars because it was a really good book, but I felt for some parts the descriptions were excessive. However, this amount of detail is also one of the reasons why the book was so great, because it allowed the readers to easily visualize the scene and atmosphere of every event. I think that this book should be read by everyone at some point in their lives, though if you aren't into reading about days that don't matter or a lot of songs and poems, this may not be the book for you. Another thing to consider when you read the book is the number of character names dropped, such as Frodo, Bilbo, Gandalf, Sam, Pippin, Legolas, Boromir, Aragorn, Gimli, Sauron, Elrond, and the list goes on and on. Characters like Bilbo, Boromir, and even Frodo are pulled by the desires from the ring. Not by choice, however. In today's society, most of us choose to take power willingly because of greed. Vladimir Putin is an example of this, and his desire for ultimate power has corrupted him and is influencing the countries around Russia, much like the Soviet Union. These are very similar to the One Ring's effect, and how it affected Boromir even though he wasn't the barrier. How does power affect the influences on those around it, such as the countries around Russia, and Boromir and the Fellowship of the Ring? Keep asking these questions, much like Tolkien pondered them in 1954. Thanks for listening.